You check your mail and see an envelope from the IRS. Inside is letter 6174. And despite what you might think, this isn't just a friendly reminder. It's about to cost you a minimum of $30,000 before you even understand what's happening. I'm talking about the soft notice that destroys crypto investors, business owners, and anyone who made money they didn't properly report. This letter looks harmless, but it's actually the IRS telling you they know about your income you didn't declare, and they're giving you one chance to fix it before they bring the hammer down. But here's what most people don't understand. The letter isn't the problem. It is the warning shot before the real problem begins. Now, if you've clicked on this video, you're probably in one or two situations. Maybe you already received the letter and you're panicking. You're trying to figure out what it means and what you're supposed to do about it. Or maybe you haven't gotten it yet, but you're worried because you know you might have unreported income, crypto gains, business income, investment profits that the IRS might discover. Either way, you're probably feeling the same thing, that sick feeling in your stomach when you realize the IRS might know more about your finances than you thought they did. Here's what I'm going to show you in this video. What the letter 6174 really means, why it's more dangerous than it looks, and most importantly, what you need to do right now to minimize the damages before it becomes a $30,000 plus nightmare. Because the truth is, getting the letter isn't the end of the world, but ignoring it or handling it wrong absolutely can be. But here's what's really going to shock you. The biggest danger isn't the taxes you owe. What happens to your statute of limitations if you handle this wrong? And most people have no idea they're about to make it infinitely worse. So let me show you exactly what's happening and what you need to do. Problem number one, what letter 6174 actually means. The soft notice reality. Let me explain what's really happening when you get this letter. Imagine you've been making money from crypto, side businesses or investments, and you haven't been reporting all of it. Maybe you thought the IRS wouldn't find out, or maybe you just didn't understand the reporting requirements. Then letter 6174 shows up. It's not aggressive, it's not threatening, it's almost polite. It basically says, we have information suggesting you might have unreported income. Would you like to voluntarily correct your tax returns? Most people think it's just a fishing expedition. They think the IRS is guessing, hoping you'll panic and admit to something that they didn't know. But here's what you need to understand. They don't send this letter unless they already have evidence. The IRS has information from exchanges, payment processors, banks, or other sources showing that you've received income you didn't report. This isn't a guess, it's a soft notice based on actual data. If you received letter 6174, do you understand that the IRS already has evidence of your unreported income? Most people think the IRS is fishing, but they don't understand this letter only comes when they have proof you didn't report income. Here's what letter 6174 really means. The IRS is giving you one opportunity to voluntarily correct your returns before they move to enforcement. They're being nice about it now, but that niceness has an expiration date. Now, despite what you've been told, responding to this letter is the one step that is by far the most important and yet also the most overlooked. But here's what happens if you ignore it, and it's worse than you think. Problem number two, the ignore it nightmare. Why this destroys everything. This is the mistake that turns a manageable problem into a lifelong catastrophe. Most people think that if you ignore this letter, maybe it'll just go away, or maybe you can deal with it later when they have more time or money. Imagine you decide to ignore the letter. You throw it in a drawer. You tell yourself you'll handle it next month. You hope maybe the IRS will forget about it. But here's what you don't understand. Ignoring the letter doesn't make the problem disappear. It makes it exponentially worse. When you ignore letter 6174, the IRS moves from voluntary compliance to enforcement mode. They stop being nice. They assess taxes based on their information, and massive penalties and interest, and start collection proceedings. And here's the worst part. You lose your statute of limitation protection. If the IRS determines that you willfully failed to respond, or that you're trying to evade taxation, there is no statute of limitations. They could come after you forever. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they can still audit you, assess taxes, and collect penalties and interest. What happens if you ignore this letter and the IRS decides you're never safe from them again? Most people don't realize that ignoring IRS notices can eliminate their statute of limitations protection forever. Here's what ignoring letter 6174 actually costs you. You lose the opportunity for voluntary compliance. You lose the chance to minimize penalties. You lose your statute of limitation protection, and you turn a $30,000 problem into a $100,000 nightmare that follows you for life. But after learning the fundamentals, there is one thing that people completely neglect, and it is something that should be one of the most important things to you when dealing with this letter. It's understanding the timeline you're actually facing. Problem number 3, the 3-year versus 6-year trap. Why time is everything. This is where letter 6174 becomes truly dangerous. It's something most people never see coming. The timeline for how long the IRS can come after you depends entirely on how you handle this letter, and most people accidentally trigger the worst case scenario. Imagine you underreported your income by 25% or more in a given year. Maybe you made $100,000 but only reported $70,000. That 30% unreporting triggers what's called substantial omission rules, which extends the statute of limitations from 3 years to 6 years. Now the IRS can go back and audit 6 years of your returns instead of 3. They can look at everything: your business expenses, your deductions, your other sources of income. What started as a simple unreported income issue becomes a comprehensive audit of your entire financial life. But here is what's actually scary. If you ignore letter 6174, you're essentially admitting that you substantially unreported your income, which automatically triggers the 6-year look back. Are you prepared for the IRS to audit 6 years of your financial records instead of 3? Most people have no idea that how they respond to this letter determines whether the IRS gets 3 years or 6 years to destroy their financial life. Here's what this means. In practical terms, respond properly, and you might limit the damage to the recent years. Ignore it or handle it wrong, and you're opening yourself up to a 6-year deep dive into everything you've ever done financially. The difference could be tens of thousands of dollars in additional taxes, penalties, and professional fees. Now, this next step I'm about to share with you is possibly one of the most fundamental things to do when it comes to IRS compliance, and yet it is one people disregard the importance of the most, and it's getting professional representation immediately. Problem number 4, the $30,000 minimum reality. Why professional help pays. Here's the reality that most people don't want to face. Once you receive letter 6174, you're looking at a minimum cost of about $30,000, whether you handle it yourself or hire professionals. The difference is whether that money goes to fixing the problem or making it infinitely worse. Imagine you try to handle this yourself. You spend months trying to reconstruct your records, figure out what you owe, and prepare amended returns. You make mistakes because you don't understand the tax code. You miss deadlines because they don't know the procedures. You say the wrong things to the IRS because you don't understand how they operate. By the time you're done, you've paid more in taxes, penalties, and interest than you would have if you hired professionals from the beginning. Plus, you've wasted months of your time and created additional problems that will cost even more to fix. When was the last time you successfully negotiated with the IRS and won? Most people try to save money by handling IRS issues themselves and end up paying far more than professional help would have cost. Here's what professional representation actually costs versus what it saves. Yes, you'll pay for professional help up front, but professionals know how to minimize your taxes, reduce your penalties, negotiate payment plans, and protect your rights. They can often save you money than they cost just in penalty reductions alone. Now that we have everything that we've talked about settled, the next step is by far the easiest process, yet most people overcomplicating it, taking immediate action with the right strategy. Problem number 5, the response strategy. What to do right now. This is what separates people who minimize their Letter 6174 problems from those who let that spiral out of control. You need a systematic approach to responding that protects your rights while minimizing your costs. Imagine you receive Letter 6174 and you immediately start gathering records, calculating what you owe, and preparing to respond. But you're doing it in the wrong order, missing key steps and potentially making admissions that hurt your case. The right approach is methodical. First, you engage professional representation before you do anything else. Then you conduct a comprehensive review of the years in question. You reconstruct records, calculate accurate tax liabilities, and develop a response strategy that minimizes penalties and protects your future. You don't just respond to what they're asking about. You proactively address related issues that could become problems later. Do you have a systematic plan for responding to Letter 6174, or are you hoping to wing it? Most people respond reactively instead of strategically, which costs them far more in the long run. Here's what a proper response strategy looks like. Professional representation from day one, comprehensive record reconstruction, accurate tax calculations, strategic responses that minimize penalties, proactive compliance going forward, payment plan negotiations if needed. You're not just fixing the immediate problem, you're building a foundation for long-term compliance and protection. This next part can take you from being someone who reacts to the IRS problems to someone who prevents them entirely. It's something most people just leave on the table. Problem number 6, prevention and future protection. Never again. This is what ensures that Letter 6174 is a one-time problem, not the beginning of a pattern. Most people fix the immediate issue, but don't address the underlying compliance problems that created it in the first place. Imagine you successfully resolve your Letter 6174, pay what you owe, and think you're done. But you haven't changed any of the behaviors or systems that got you into the trouble in the first place. You're still not properly tracking income. You're still not making estimated tax payments. You're still not maintaining proper records. 2 years later, you get another IRS letter. This time, they're not as nice because you're a repeated offender. The penalties are higher. The scrutiny is more intense, and your credibility with the IRS is shot. Have you built systems to ensure you never get another IRS letter, or are you just hoping this was a one-time problem? Most people fix the immediate problems but don't build the systems to prevent it from happening again. Here's what prevention actually looks like. Proper income tracking systems, regular estimated tax payments, professional tax preparation and planning, ongoing compliance monitoring, annual reviews to catch problems before they become IRS letters. You're not just solving today's problems, you're building a system that ensures you never have to deal with this nightmare again. Look, I know this is scary. Getting a letter from the IRS is one of the most stressful things that can happen to a business owner or investor. But here's the truth. Letter 6174 is actually an opportunity disguised as a threat. It's an opportunity to fix your compliance issues before they become criminal issues. It's an opportunity to minimize penalties before they compound. It's an opportunity to build proper systems before you make even more money that needs to be protected. But you have to act fast, and you have to act smart. Every day you wait, the problem gets more expensive and more complicated. If you received Letter 6174, if you're worried you might receive one, or if you just want to make sure your tax compliance is bulletproof going forward, you need professional guidance from people who specialize in exactly these situations. At Numeratus, we've handled 6174 letters. We know exactly how to minimize your taxes, reduce your penalties, and build systems that prevent future problems. We're not your typical accounting firm. We specialize in the complex, high-stakes situations that other firms won't touch. We'll audit your records, reconstruct your tax history, negotiate with the IRS on your behalf, and build compliance systems that protect you going forward. Most importantly, we'll do it all while you focus on what you do best, building your business and your wealth. If you want to learn more about how we can help you resolve your letter, minimize your costs, and build bulletproof compliance systems, visit numeratus.us or contact us directly. Don't wait until the IRS moves from voluntary compliance to enforcement. Don't let a $30,000 problem become a $100,000 nightmare. And don't try to handle the most important tax issue of your life without professional help. Because remember, the IRS sent you letter 6174 because they already have evidence. The question isn't whether you owe money, it's how much you're going to pay and how much protection you're going to have going forward. Make sure you get both of those right.